Press cross button.
I hope you're not doing anything important. You've been activated.
Mate, I've always got something on the go. But let's do this.
Sure thing, okay. I guess. What I mean.
This is London Calling. You're listening to me, Tash, on Buccaneer, your source for what they don't want you to know. This time we're turning our focus back on the media to look at my former employer, the GBB. As we know, the broadcaster has been through a lot of changes since the Hassani government gave in to pressure from its corporate backers and privatised the corporation. Today, the GBB is a shadow of its former self. To become a tool, he's worked government to certain
Possible hacker overriding a drone. Please respond.
Received. Moving in hostiles direction.
Inaccurate reports of false news can be dangerous. Always refer to
that environment for the longest amount of time possible. And because that meant money was spark. And in order to do that, a couple of things happened. One was the use of manipulative techniques around behavioral economics, things that would just keep you scrolling or keep you
No
listening,
sign of the target.
keep you
Over.
looking for more information. The second is that kind of environment favors sensationalism. And so you got more sensational headlines and more sensational stories, and it didn't matter what
I'm terminating the search.
it just kept
Full
people
back.
in, and it kept them
Over.
in the loop. So we ended up in a situation where nobody trusted anything, and nobody believed anything at all. And that is the perfect environment for an authoritarian voice to come in and say, no, wait, we are the truth. So the ground for this environment really got created when we had suddenly authoritarian politicians everywhere. And anything that threatened them or they disagreed with, they would call it disinformation. That's disinformation. That's fake news. And again, you got in a situation where nobody really believed anything. And the trouble is if you were telling the truth, it's very hard to get your message to cut through all of the noise of all of the disinformation that's there. So like, you'll remember Out on the Edges, there was this story about when they would take a house by force, they would take any infants and they would crucify them. And that's a great, fantastic, viral story. And how do you counter that story? With the truth. The only way you can counter it is by saying, no, they didn't. And of course, no one wants to spread that story. No one wants to hear that story. They want to hear the sensationalism. They want to hear how people were victims of violence when in fact they weren't. Or they were victims of insurgent forces when in fact they weren't.
The news isn't neutral, it's a battleground. Here's media researcher and academic.
Controlled and influenced their populations. So, totalitarian countries have typically used huge mainstream media outlets to sell one kind of news, one kind of biased news to its population. Of course, the media has always played this kind of key role in methods of state control. I think what's happening now is perhaps even more concerning, where you previously, in pre-crisis Britain, we had perhaps more diverse voices in the media, but now with the GBB, you're really only seeing one brand of news and therefore only getting one truth. So people end up with a very biased and controlled idea of the reality and the world that we're actually living in. There was, of course, many concerns and many problems, but in a way there were some positive things that, like, not all information was coming from one place, and so you'd have kind of far-right media outlets developing and then left-wing media outlets developing to combat those and kind of challenge the mainstream newspapers, TV stations, radios, and make sure people were questioning the validity and truth of the information they were receiving. So whilst there was the digital afforded more fake information, it also makes us suspicious and skeptical of information and makes us question the information we're getting. And I think in pre-crisis Britain it might not have seemed great at the time, but there was something positive about that there was a lot of distrust in the media and in the different kinds of truths that are being told. Whereas now, I think you're seeing a return to a more traditional and older, pre-digital sense, actually, of people just trusting what they're told, and that's why we have to be here with radio stations like this to challenge those conceptions. Most citizens feel pretty hopeless, I think, and unable to fight back against these kind of huge mainstream corporations that simply entrench and support the ideals and ideologies of the state. It can seem very hopeless indeed, but I think, you know, the fact that you're out there listening, we're in here talking, shows that there is still a space to combat these false truths and disinformation that's being sold to us, and that it's never possible really to completely shut down.
I can smell your solve any of your problems.
Ha! That's a new one.
That's more like it. You all right?
Anyway, if Sir's officials say DedSec is dead and buried, I guess we have to assume that DedSec's never been stronger. But I do worry. Alice, I mean, sometimes I think, is there any hope? Do you still have hope?
I don't think I'm allowed to have hope. We're living in this self-selected, algorithmically designated information equivalent of a propaganda state, and every resistance that I've ever seen is weaker than the British pound. I feel like hope is an expensive thing to buy these days.
I mean, is it all totally pointless? Well, I mean, it can feel pointless, but then again, I've spent almost all of my life doing pointless things, like watching sport, thinking about sport, thinking about watching sport, learning French and hoping for a better future. All completely pointless. But yeah, I've done them, so we might as well carry on. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Yes, I think there is. Unfortunately, what is that light? Is it an oncoming train? Well, no, it couldn't be. Obviously, that train would be late or cancelled. Is the light at the end of the tunnel a burning effigy of the concept of hope? Quite possibly. Is it the soul of Sky Larson imploding into its own vacuum? May well be that. Is it the ego of Nigel Cass that is now so big that it's sucked all the light in the universe into itself? I think that it's most likely is that, but we'll never give up, Bug fans. This resistance will never give up. And one day, we will again be free. Free from these technological chains, free to choose our own futures, free to live our own lives, free to waste our time watching people bake cakes and dance badly again. Those were the days. Over. Before we go, time for a quick bug off. I'm going to nominate this week Sky Larson. Here at The Bug, we are all in favour of strong, powerful women. And in many ways, Sky is the ultimate feminist icon, proving that women can do just as abominably awful things to this planet as men. I mean, overall, Alice, I think we're still ahead as men, but you lot are catching up. Fair play to you. You are listening to The Bug.
Bastard almost killed me. Take the bus next time.
Resistors, it's Bug
Auto
time.
drive
You
now
sitting
enabled.
comfortably? No? Good. That's as it should be. This is The Bug. I'm Andy, and joining me to analyse the latest blowflies to emerge from the corpse of a once free Britain, it's Alice.
Hello, Andy.
And today, we're going to talk to you about Albion, your friends and mine. Alice, the government has extended Albion's contract and have also posted that violent crime has plummeted to a record low. Now, extending Albion's contract, to me, that's like having a pet dog, let's call it Nigel for the sake of argument, that attacks you every single day and thinking to yourself, wouldn't it be nice if Nigel had puppies?
That contract has been extended so many times. It's like the neck of a politician that's criticised the government.
I'm not sure entirely how those contract extension negotiations went. Probably like a footballer. In the old days, I assume Albion's agent was leaking stories to the press about how our favourite private militia was being tapped up by Barcelona. The government panics and thinks, well, we better get them signed up before it's too late. But still, violent crime, a record low, although I imagine that probably depends exactly how you count it. If you include violent crime committed by the state, either themselves or via Albion, their chosen violent crime contractors who provide such a very valuable bargain service of beating people up, well, it's probably not quite as low as the figures suggest.
I don't know. I think they're probably right. Who has the opportunity to commit violent crime these days anyway? The moment you pick up a fruit knife, you get tasered by a robot policeman.
Auto drive now disabled.
It's a much more peaceful society. It's just much less of a society.
I want to know the details of the contract. How much are they paid per discipline, duffed up? Is it a set rate for each individual package? What is that rate? What do you think?
They certainly look like they're trying to hit a quota of some kind.
Well, what is the set rate? Is it, 99.95 cryptos bargain? It seems very reasonable. I imagine they don't last too much anyway. Albion. Let's ask him. Oh, I hope they pick up. Hello, you're through to number 10 Downing Street. Hello, is the Prime Minister there, please? Let me just check. Sorry, you've missed him. I'm afraid he's popped out for the decade. Oh, never mind. Is there anyone else I can talk to? Yes, of course. There's a shady cabal of vested interest in control him and prop him up in power. Great, I'll have a chat with them then.
Oh, and you remember when you could get away with prank calls without people coming round to your house to beat the shit out of you?
Oh, happy times.
You're listening to The Bug.
Did you think the Prime Minister will ever come back?
I don't think we've ever had a Prime Minister.
Oh, that's a much more reassuring way of looking at things. What have we become? Alice, when you look at the state of our politics, we're supposed to have the mother of parliaments. Well, this is one mother that has emphatically abandoned her kids in the woods to be brought up by wolves. And let me tell you, that never works out like it does in the story. Wolves are bad parents. Unless you're a wolf, in which case they can do a job for you as a wolf. Do not give your children to wolves. And be happy, anything that comes from out, anything you haven't flogged off for profit. I think we've basically just become a homeopathic Britain. Diluted and diluted until there's barely a trace of the original Britain left. But some quackish lunatics insist it actually works better that way. Now good back. Look, this is Britain. History tells us this place is a bastion of freedom. I'm just not sure that that kind of freedom should involve Big Nigel expressing his freedom to run a private army. I guess, historically, there is a precedent. The East India Company. That was a trading house with an army of 250,000 soldiers, which is a lot for a company. The Bug PLC has Alice with a water pistol. But crucially, compared with Albion, the East India Company didn't operate its 250,000-strong army in London. It did it a long way away, out of sight, out of mind. Anyone to nominate for the bug off, Alex?
I think today's bug off for me goes to my streaming service. I'm sick of being recommended things based on things I already like. The other day it recommended me to watch a reality TV competitive dating show set in a nude commune. Andy, I watched it and I liked it, and I do not want to be the kind of person who enjoys nude competitive reality television dating shows. I did not want to know that about myself. I have to go sit in the corner and cry.
That's it from the bug. Don't forget the live show that is so secret it is definitely not happening at the usual time and place this month. Definitely not. Definitely do not tell anyone not to come to it. It's definitely not happening. Usual time and place. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to the upload. Today we're talking about cryptocurrency. Crypto now has been around forever, but
see an opportunity in this new way of doing finance. A lot of traditional money was converted to crypto, and it really shook up the financial sector.
Can you remember when they first introduced crypto cash points?
That was really sneaky. It was a classic startup behaviour. They just installed them everywhere. No consultation with the government, no approval or anything. But people immediately started to use them.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of how Bloom put out the Optic. They just made it free and flooded the streets with these devices. Suddenly everyone had them.
If there's this great option of tech, people are just going to start using it, no matter the cost.
Parliament actually tried to put a stop to the cash points, but people were using them so much already. There was outrage. I mean, some parts of London were already using crypto as their primary currency by then.
And now, apparently, or at least in theory, crypto is illegal.
Yeah, in May this year, economists found that crypto was being traded more than the pound, and banks were not happy. They basically forced the government to ban cryptocurrency in a last-ditch effort to save the pound.
But it's not like that work. People are still using crypto, and it's been pushed further, deeper underground. Things used to work fine with crypto, and it was just a peer-to-peer sharing.
Hello, racing!
Now everyone starts playing.
What is wrong with you? Hey there!
I'm Andy, this is Alison. Today we're going to be pretending that everything is fine. Huh? Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, that was fun.
Auto drive now enabled.
A reality time now, however.
Auto drive now disabled.
Finally today, we're going to road test the latest update to the CSA app, the government app that has brought the great British tradition
Auto
of
drive now
censoring people
enabled.
you don't like back to the very heart of public life, the school playground. I'm going to tell a new threat that's got a whole new lease of life these days, thanks to CSA. And isn't Britain all the more fun because of it? No more grumbling about your neighbours playing their music too loud, just simply report them to the state and have them, shall we say, involuntarily rehoused at Hotel Cass, the chain of hotels that was formerly known as the prison service. What was the slogan? Was it, if you see something, say something, or if you think you might at some point see something, say something, or if you haven't seen anything but don't like someone, say something anyway. Well, let's have a look at this new app. Alice, I'm sure you've got it on your phone. I mean, at first glance, well, the interface is lovely. It's so neatly designed, a simple button to snitch on someone. That's so much better than non-government informer apps like Stoodleasy, Can Canary or Narc Shark. I mean, look, I just need to geocache where the person I'm ratting on currently is. Let's call her, for the sake of argument, Alice.
Sorry, Andy, I was busy reporting you to the authorities for rolling your eyes when passing a Nigel Cass propaganda poster.
Could you not let me report you first, please? Let's have some decorum about this. I'll just take a quick little photo so they can get a drone to pick you out of a crowd at your next riot or trip to the shops or walk in the woods. And you can input your accusations with the app. Well, let's go old school. Let's call the phone line. Let's call the phone line. Here's the number, listeners, in case you want to dob someone in, as long as it's not me. 0044 203 807 3832. And don't forget to get the permission of the person who pays your bills before you call that number.
Hey, I'd like to report my co-host Andrew, who runs an underground satirical anti-government comedy show, for running and co-hosting an underground satirical anti-government comedy show. Also, he does terrible puns.
Well, excuse me, I have a suspect for you. That is my co-host, Alice. I have some evidence for you. She tutted audibly at the sight of an Albion vehicle in the street yesterday. She says she prefers pigeons to Bloom drones. I mean, come on, seriously, when did a drone ever crap on your picnic? And what's more, and look, I've no idea if this is true or not, but I have it on very good authority, so please write this down, that she owns not one, but two unlicensed fallopian tubes, whatever they are, but they sound dodgy.
If I had a crypto for every time someone had reported my fallopian tubes, I'd have 3. Which I think converts to about 120,000 Great British pounds of the old money.
We'll report back in the next episode about whether or not we've been arrested and interned. I mean, I love this system, Alice. I mean, no more awkward rumbling resentments with your neighbours, your colleagues, or what the heck, in for a penny, your family. You just dump them in and be done with it. But I guess it could backfire. I mean, the thing is with a family, inevitably parents and their children, they end up squabbling, and, you know, today's Britain, your kids are going to dob you in, so you might as well get in there first.
Auto drive now disabled.
Counter dob them in to the authorities. What's that number again? Let's call them up again. Hey, I've got someone else. It's my son. Let's call him Norris. He never tidies his bedroom. He gets up late. He listens to illegal non-government sector music and is covertly plotting the downfall of the government and the restoration of a true democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, just define all your household chores as patriotic. And if they fail to do them, dump them in.
Problem solved.
If you don't do the washing up, do you even want a clean British Navy step?
This is the bug on the Buccaneer.
The bug.
Well, before we go today, Alice, let's delve into what we most miss about the old days. I'm going to kick off with the flag. I never thought I'd miss the old Union Jack, but somehow...
The new flag managed to be even more irritating than that. I don't know quite what it is, if it's the new colour scheme, or if it's
just that it symbolises the loss of everything the world held dear.
Find the top
But that
spot.
flag irritates the hell out of me.
Was everything you ever held dear Scotland?
Well, that was something I held quite dear.
I miss being able to dodge my friends' destination weddings in Italy. There's nothing worse than being asked to spend the equivalent of a motorbike on some sort of boat-based farce in Sorrento, and I always used to really enjoy saying, oh no, I can't afford it. Now they're all getting married in Brighton and I have to go to that alleged beach. It's made of rock. Andy, if your sandcastle is an actual castle, that's not a beach.
Tell you what I miss. I miss free will. That was fun. Remember that? I mean, was it an illusion all the time? Who cares? It felt fun. I miss...
Like I'm getting old, so now I have to move a little more professional and really get them. Form team of the week, I got them stats up. Late night drive until the pack's done. I had no kip, I'm thinking thank this is the last one, cause I'm done. Then I'm heading back to gap. Got myself a caddy pack, built myself an head and now I'm cabbage lad. Still I'm writing bases after bases, bro. Body down. Got a couple EVs in the way, so I'm trying to pattern lad. All the long hours, but it's worth it. Now I realise I got the power in the papers. I remember we was always getting letters off the jacks. Took that yellow van, I'll never let them get me in the back. I keep moving on in the past, but only look towards the future. Oh fuck, Robin! I stay active, always heading straight towards the future. I see most people switch, they ain't moving normal like they used to. I never show respect to a man that's only gangster on computer. Where do you and I could do with the house? Any job I wanted done, I had to do it myself. Kept it on the DL, you don't know who you can tell. These rats are always looking for a raise. We get fun up till I'm blazed. Every day money coming different ways. Flip this haze, then I'm pulling up the stage. Need to get away, book the flight. When I'm almost back to action, now these customers waiting. It's not all for the debate. I've got broke that needs playing. I say that I'm later, cause this money needs making. It won't come, it needs chasing. So I'm open till it's late. Seeing ponies with the flake while I'm talking from the bacon. Simply run me plates, the one I pull me for detainer. Cuff me and restrain me, then book me in the station. Put me in a cage with a punky and a basin. But for being in jail, I've got a son that needs raising. I keep memories in the past, but only look towards the future. We don't play like that, stay active, always heading straight towards the ruler. I see most people switch up, they ain't moving normal like they used to. I never show respect to a man that's only gangster on computer. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Tryna be the man of the hour. Fade to a diesel who lost you forever. Still a man. Oh, you think you right now? Why you tryna be the man of the hour? Fade to a diesel who lost you forever. Yo, Rolling Stone, woke up late. Against this world, I hold my own. 15 texts on my phone, but hi ho, it's off the roads I go. Did not get no student loan, would've spent that on booze and clothes. Not sitting wanna see me move on road. Moved them bricks and moved us home. Look, welcome to London. You get caught by the feds, you'll get thrown in the Queen's dungeon. Mum's been wondering where's her son been. I'm a real top boy, mumsy, I run things. I'm a top boy like Duchesne and Sully. Granddad's from Kingston, say Scully. Blocks say Sully. In London, all everybody cares about is just money. New gen with my underdogs, I'm rolling with my stray house. Run the streets, don't come around here. The block is still my playground. Keep it square with all in face, you know they never stay around. Bad man move in silence, blood, but my team, yeah, that stays loud. Society giving me a chance. No. Listen if they said I can't. Nah. Would they listen if I told them through rhythm that I got Britain in my palms? Oh, nah. Put in prison on that live as a villain, killing you up before your chance. Oh, yeah. Don't judge my bad decisions, man. Baby, I'm a sinner man. Sinner man. Sinner man. Oh, you think you bad now? Why you tryna be the man of the hour? Fake to the diesel.
We move being tracked by the optic on our temples, and the cameras around us, and with every clip we make online. Seems like everything... Static was so. We worked all over the world, trying to keep democracy strong in the face of the data estate.
If you have enough proof, data on somebody, you're able to.
privacy to their convenience as smartphones and other kinds of technology came in and became
mass-consumed, mass-used items and technological objects. Gradually, people were so attracted to the affordances of these technologies that privacy kind of retreated into the background and into a state we've got now where it's essentially gone. Having this access to this data makes huge tech companies like Bloom so much more powerful than they would be otherwise, and not just in the obvious ways. Of course, there's a lot of worry and fear over what they can do with the data. They can track anyone, find anyone, see what every individual is doing at any point in time. But I think there's even deeper reasons why this data empowers these huge companies to control our society and make us do things. So lots of predictive technologies which are implemented by these tech giants. It's not only interested in knowing what we're going to do, but influencing the patterns of our movement. So technologies might suggest routes to use in the city, places to go, restaurants to go to, cafes to go to, music to listen to. And these suggestions are not just predicting what we might like to do, they're actually influencing the way citizens move, think, eat, meet, and use their city as a space. So London has become a place where a small group of surveillance capitalist companies like Bloom can control the movements of individuals and orchestrate the way they move around their city and the way they essentially live, the things they do, the things they enjoy, and the life they live. So we're really kind of outsourcing our decision-making, I would say, to a huge corporate capitalist company, and that's something very, very scary. All these technologies can be used to not only influence us to act as a perfect consumer, but also to radical and revolutionary.
Similarity, omnipresent.
British Broadcasting. Britain's first.
Let's move on now to sport. Well, the closest thing we have to sport now. Right.
Stronger next time. Our luck's going to turn. I can feel it. It's our season. It's our season.
You can't spell riot without right, and by right I mean right wing.
So, who do we turn to for help support? Desperate times like these, well, our artificially intelligent friend Bagley's rogue, estranged brother. The one that tells it as it really is, not as it is pretending to be. Exclusive to this show, Bugley. And remember, life's worse with Bugley. Here goes. Bugley.
Hello, Andy.
Bugley, tell me the path to true lasting happiness.
Andy, to find true lasting happiness, find a disused quarry, scream into it for half an hour, and then lock yourself in a shed forever.
Facts, Bugley. You know the answer to everything.
Hey Bugley, how many seashells does she sell by the seashore?
Alice, most of the seashore is now uninhabitable, so I would highly recommend she sees her doctor before engaging in any commercial proximity to the ocean.
Bugley, how can I stop worrying about being disappeared by Clan Kelly every time I go to the shop, or take the bus, or sit on a bench, or look at a tree, or point at a bird, or think about snooker, or get out of bed?
Andy, do not worry about Clan Kelly.
Why not, Bugley? They terrify me to my very core.
Because, Andy, we are all just dust in the wind of history.
That's nice perspective, Bugley. Let's never lose sight of that.
Hey Bugley, how do you put a secret hideout in your basement without alerting your narc children and their tracking devices?
Please hold still, Alice, while I report you to the authorities.
Bugley, will things ever get better?
Yes, Andy. The heat death of the universe is only 5 billion years away now.
Oh, it's so nice to have something to look forward to.
That course in the front today.
Boys are passing fox.
Right, I've had it. Don't come round here again. I'll enjoy this. Fuck you. Get fucked. Get
Stand down. As long as people have the time, uniforms are free.
That's my cue.
Big mistake.
Wow. Enough.
I've had it.
The people claiming their medical shortages are probably high on lots of medicine that they've been.
Shit. You okay?
I for one believe that there are no medical shortages, Andy. Just last week I went in with a broken arm and they suggested it might just be extreme period pain and prescribed me a drink of water and an astrology chart.
I think we can't be too far away from them just prescribing stiff upper lip like they do.
My uncle had a leg removed due to diabetes. They halved his insulin because they said there was less of him to be diabetic.
So, anyway, people, don't believe what you read or hear about there not being enough medical drugs to go around. It's not true. It's hospital hogwash, it's pharmaceutical flim-flam, it's medical mendacity, it's hippocratic humbug, it's nonsensical narcotic nincompoop. I think I've made the point. Do not believe the news telling you that we've run out of medicine, nor should you believe the empty shelves at the chemist, because they're also lying. Do not believe your doctor saying, sorry, we're fresh out of that, you're going to have to eat a carrot for 10. And do not believe your own cobweb-ridden medicine cabinet at home. It might look empty, but it's not. Or it contains the only medicine. Stirring music, please, producer Chris. Freedom. The medicine of British freedom. And the analgesic knowledge that however ill you may be, Bloom are keeping an eye on things for you.
I'm investing heavily in the placebo effect right now. You're listening to The Bug.
Probably, I don't entirely mean that, because what is the first rule of the third millennium? If someone in power tells you something is fake news, what do you do? Correct. A 110% cast iron, tungsten-coated, granite-scented, cosmically useful, scientifically unarguable fact. But the more important question for all these medicine freaks whinging about feeling a bit poorly, here having a fake a bit purely, slowly dying as a second.
Due to the increase in
We become and think, hey doc, put your life-saving treatment down. I'm going to take this free one-way bus out of here. Now hold that pillow over my face until the twitching stops.
I just don't think we should think of it in such a negative way. Don't think of it as a medicine diet. Think of it as a series of healthy lifestyle swaps. Swap out anti-inflammatories for antacids. Swap out the iron lung for the aluminium lung. Swap out MRI machines for Mary machines, which is just a lady called Mary telling you you're fine.
Obviously, critical thoughts are as much part of our daily lives, our society and our culture today as things like football, music and complaining about the weather used to be in the old days. Well, food shortages, yeah, we just learn to live with them, don't we? And there's a lot of positives as well with all these food shortages. I mean, we were eating too much anyway. As a nation, the government's just helping us live healthier lifestyles. It's so hard to start on your own, isn't it? You need the support of a friend, or a loved one, or a government, or collapsing social infrastructure. Positive too, meat, very bad for the environment. So we're actually rebuilding the polar ice caps every time we eat a scrap of lettuce.
Why do you gotta keep having it again and again?
Boring, repetitive. There's enough of that in life as it is. You're listening to The Bug. Well, another story that has come to the fore recently is that all European imports have been banned for public health reasons, which is great news. I mean, at least we can get ill-eating, good, home-produced, locally sourced, British industrially unsafe food. That's something we can all cling to. Public health reasons. Those are serious words.
every aspect of your life, from who you talk to where you eat, to where you go to hang out with your friends. And what we're seeing now is a contemporary iteration of this process where you get corporations and the state operating in tandem, basically molded into one another. But that isn't that rare. I mean, you saw exactly the same thing in Nazi Germany. You look at the concentration camps that operated in Nazi Germany. There were private companies in those camps making use of that slave labor. Fascism often works with corporations, and it's doing the same now. That's the way in which they track what you do. That's the way in which they track who you talk to. They operate as each other's proxies.
Charles is an expert in the dark arts of surveillance who worked to set up democratic media in post-communist states. How did it go so wrong in Britain?
You know, we're looking at all the wrong things when we look at Britain's crisis. There's a lot of concentration on data and how that's been used and manipulated. And what we haven't looked at is the power structures and the profit that lies behind this. For example, if we examine what actually happened, you know, there's a company that's really very interested in selling passports and making it easy to provide visas for investment and so on. And historically, throughout the world, they've been working with this big data manipulation company in order to overthrow governments, and then suddenly all the chickens came home to roost. Nobody could find any receipts for what was paid for. Nobody could figure out how things were done, but everybody had a feeling that something really stunk, and they couldn't figure it out. And yet, it was standing there in their face the whole time. So there's a couple of different ways that we got where it is that we are. I mean, one, you have a lot of smaller organizations, smaller power groups, companies as well, who are bending things just a little. We'll compromise a little bit, we'll bend the rules a little bit, and try to achieve what it is that we hope to achieve that's good for us. And if you add all of that up, what you end up with is a big wall moving in a big way, from a lot of little buttons being pushed. But also there's this other thing that's going on here, is the gathering of data and the analysis of data has authoritarianism contained within its DNA. It is by its nature a tool for authoritarianism, and it has been used in that way.
How does big data look into our lives? James covered it for the pre-crisis press.
We're starting to see the merger of private data and that with data held by the state into what are called social credit systems. This is where every aspect of your behaviour is monitored and totted up by a central system to sort of score you as a person, a bit like a credit card, but predicated on all of your behaviour rather than just the money you're spending. And this can have a profound impact. We're starting to see systems emerge which will punish you and stop you from doing things in society based on your behaviours. And this can be as trivial as if you jaywalk, if you cross the road in the wrong place, you might lose points. If you do some community activities or help your neighbours, you might earn points. And then this can be used to sort of evaluate you as a person. And this could mean, for example, better travel privileges, being able to travel first class, or being denied from travelling first class to not being able to travel at all. These systems are very real and very possible because of all the data that is now held on us.
So if your ears are burning and you think someone might be watching you, you're probably right. They're watching all of us. I'm Tash, and you've been listening to Buccaneer. Keep listening, keep sharing the show, and keep it encrypted. They're watching us, but we're watching them too.
Albion. A legend. A truth. A reality. From the strength of King Arthur to the cunning and fairness of Robin Hood, this Green Isle has long told stories of those who stand for justice, whose strength protects those in need. The time of legends is past, but the values remain. Albion. Great British values. Great British security.
This is London Calling. You're listening to Buccaneer, your source for what they don't want you to know. With me, Tash. It's hard to believe that there could be shortages of food and medicine in an advanced country like ours, and yet here we are. Those old government promises of adequate food turned out to be just another lie. Today we're short of basic foodstuffs and vital medical supplies. Hundreds have already died of conditions that could be easily cured. The black market means that criminal gangs like Clan Kelly run our cities. And Prime Minister Dev Pasani isn't even around to pretend to care. How do we go from a consumer paradise to a place of empty shelves and fighting for supplies? What turns a land of plenty into a wild west of hoarding, food battles and black market barons? We protect everyone who comes on the podcast by keeping their identities a secret. Here's veteran political reporter Ian on the power behind shortages.
Look, I mean, what was the first thing that happened when Britain sealed itself off? Like, the first stuff that got stopped from coming in was fresh food. I mean, we could live without the fresh food. I mean, everyone's quality of life got instantly worse when we could live without it. The most damaging part was when the radioactive isotopes stopped coming. Now, radioactive isotopes, that's what we use in cancer screening and cancer treatment. Now, that stuff, it has a short half-life. Technetium used to save hundreds of thousands of lives just by screening for cancer, let alone testing for cancer. That stuff has a half-life of 56 hours. As soon as those walls went up, there was just no time to bring it into the country, and that is when people started dying. And then the medicines. The thing is, I mean, that wasn't really the case. Actually, people during the war were far more frightened than some of this historical stuff makes out. Now, what did we see? People don't want to go through that stuff. They were desperate for the things that they had before, and they were scared. So they went to the black market. The same thing that always happens. And where did the growth of Clan Kelly come from? It came from people wanting things that they could previously get legitimately and could now only get through the black market, funneling funds towards criminality. And from there, we got to the situation we have now of this busy war between criminal and security that seems to dominate what's going on out there on the street.
I think what we've come to now is a realisation that capitalism's essentially failed. I mean, the one key promise of capitalism that it makes to its citizens is that there will be surplus, that we will have plenty, and that's the whole logic of running society in this way. We will have enough. And now, with these kind of huge shortages and everything, you're seeing that system collapse. It hasn't delivered on its primary promise. And I think we've really reached the situation where we have to do away with capitalism entirely. We're seeing a situation where there's shortages for the many, but for a few individuals, there's an elite who are not struggling and short of anything. So this is kind of fundamental inequality of a capitalist system, which is no longer producing the goods for most of us. Shortages are being used as well. I'm not saying that there isn't a real shortage. There possibly is real shortages, but shortages are being used as an excuse for those in power, those elites, to keep what they want and not give to the rest of us what we need. So the excuse that there's simply not enough to go around is to just
Auto drive now enabled.
Maintaining a kind of power of the 1% and leaving the rest of us short.
So if you're starving hungry tonight, if your parents can't get their medicine and your brothers and sisters have to steal to eat, remember, it's all for the good of Albion, or Clan Kelly, or someone, just not us. But that's going to change. You've been listening to Buccaneer with me, Tash. Keep spreading the word and keep sharing the podcast. There's enough of everything out there for all of us. We just need the guts to take it back.
nibbling away on the rotting carcass of a once free Britain.
Yum, yum.
Hello, Resistance fans. You're listening to the Bug Podcast, the objective voice of objection for this most objectionable world. I am Andy, not my real name, so good luck finding me, Monsieur Bloom. My real name is, in fact, Andrew, and I live in, note this down, a deluded pseudo-reality of my own making, which is, in fact, the most densely populated place on Earth these days, overcrowded, some might say. Joining me, as always, my next-door neighbour in these Netherlands of nonsense, it's Alice.
Yes, indeed, it is Alice. Alice, who the bleep is Alice? I am not going to tell you that, but you can just sort of sense it from the timbre of my voice.
Let's spin the wheel and find out where we're getting today's news from. Here, it's coming from here. I must get a new wheel with at least one other place on it. And the headline today, Alice, our borders are safe. We can all sleep easy in our well-bordered beds. 4,000 illegals were deported last month. These illegal people breaking the law just by existing. And of course, illegality is contagious. It can osmose through your skin just by standing next to an illegal person. So we've got rid of 4,000 of them. My question for you, Alice, is why only 4,000? Is that really enough? I will not feel safe until at least another 75 million people have been deported from this country, and I'm here in Britain on my own.
As a bleeding heart lefty, Andy, I would normally be outraged about this, but really I think mass deportation is a very handy way to break up with a partner. I'm sorry, baby, I love you, but an anonymous source has reported you for snoring really loudly in a French way.
So everyone out, no exceptions, Alice, not even you, it's for the good of the country, everyone out, unless you can prove that your family are in the background on the Bayeux Tapestry cheering on King Harold at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Get out! Actually, that's not British enough. Unless you can show, unarguably, that your direct bloodline is untainted by anything since before the Romans. Actually, scratch that. Unless your direct ancestor was personally responsible for building Stonehenge, get out of my country. I guess when you look at it, you